Thanks everybody for joining us here today. Standing up here with me, we have Assistant Attorney General Melissa Palapu, who serves as the chair of the Michigan Human Trafficking Commission. Department of Attorney General Criminal Justice Bureau Chief Danielle Hageman Clark, Chief of Criminal Investigations Aubrey Sargent, Department of Attorney General First Assistant in the Criminal Trials Division Danielle Rousseau-Bennett, HSI Detroit Special Agent in Charge Angie Salazar, the Director of Michigan State Police Colonel James Grady, and St. Clair Shores Deputy Chief Paul Plaza. Did I get everybody? Robin. I'm sorry. Robin Liddell, who is our division chief of our criminal division in the Department of Attorney General. So over the course of the last several hours today, and continuing at this present time, my office, alongside Michigan State Police, MSP Comet, the Federal Homeland Security Investigations, St. Clair Shores Police Department, and Sterling Heights Police Department, executed search and arrest warrants against 4 individuals, 2 residences, and 4 alleged illicit massage parlors throughout Wayne and Macomb counties in connection to an international human trafficking ring and forced commercial sex work. In the course of our searches of the 4 massage parlors today, we liberated 7 to 9 women of Chinese and Korean nationality from the horrors of what we allege to be a sex trafficking ring right here in Metro Detroit. The reason I'm saying 7 to 9 is because it's not clear to us yet who was a victim and who might be a criminal defendant. We're presently coordinating housing and other resources for these victims alongside community partners Avalon Healing, Garden of Hope, Beauty for Ashes, Common Ground, and Asian Services in Action, or ASIA, as they begin to put their lives back together after weeks and months of forced commercial sex work in our communities. I want to say the totality of what we'll be describing today are only allegations, of course, legally speaking. All the defendants at this stage of the criminal justice proceedings are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law, though proving these charges is absolutely what we intend to do. Our lengthy and thorough investigation began in the summer of this year and involves several law enforcement agencies on the local, state, and federal levels, several undercover police operations within the illicit parlors, and employed extensive physical and digital surveillance of the subject massage parlors and numerous suspects, requiring scrutinizing business records and registrations, and we employed a victim-centered anti-human trafficking law enforcement approach. This operation has put an end to a significant human trafficking ring, as large as any that we've uncovered here in the state of Michigan. Now, we believe this ring is only a part of a larger national criminal syndicate, and our investigation remains ongoing as we delve into the trove of evidence acquired today. It should be made clear that Michigan will be no harbor for the heinous trafficking trade for forced labor, sexual or otherwise. Today, through the tremendous coordinated efforts of dozens of law enforcement officers, we arrested Jinju Zhen, a 45-year-old woman who travels with a Chinese passport, who we allege to be the head of this trafficking ring. Jin's primary residence is in Flushing, New York. She was arrested by the Michigan State Police after arriving in Michigan this morning. She's charged with conducting a criminal enterprise, a 20-year felony, conspiracy to conducting a criminal enterprise, a 20-year felony, accepting earnings from prostitution, a 20-year felony, transportation for the purposes of prostitution, a 20-year felony, money laundering, second degree, a 10-year felony, and keeping a house of prostitution, a 5-year felony. Hao Zi Piao, a 60-year-old woman from China who assisted with the operations of several parlors with Ming Li, is charged with conducting a criminal enterprise and multiple other felonies, including 2 counts of keeping a house of prostitution and 1 count of money laundering a 10-year felony for washing parlor earnings through extensive gameplay at various Detroit casinos. Also charged, John Villacerda, a 60-year-old man from Clinton Township, a Michigan resident, American citizen who worked in service of this ring, providing transportation of the trafficking victims between airports and other parlors. He's charged with conducting a criminal enterprise, conspiracy to commit conducting a criminal enterprise, and transportation in service of prostitution, a 20-year felony. And Michael Navoy, a 70-year-old Michigan resident of Allen Park, who has been charged by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office with human trafficking, forced labor resulting in commercial sex activity, human trafficking, forced labor, accepting earnings of prostitution, keeping a house of prostitution, and use of a computer to commit a crime. Charges have also been filed against the following, who are not yet in custody: Umar Luge, a 53-year-old man who is a non-citizen from West Africa, who is believed to be both a business and domestic partner of Jin and an essential part of operating the criminal enterprise. Luge assisted Jin in the operations of multiple illicit massage parlors within this particular criminal enterprise, and is charged with conducting a criminal enterprise, conspiracy to commit conducting a criminal enterprise, accepting earnings from prostitution, and keeping a house of prostitution. We believe Luge to be out of the country at this current time. Ming Lee, a 59-year-old man who is an undocumented immigrant, is alleged to be the owner of multiple illicit massage parlors involved with this ring. Lee is charged with conducting a criminal enterprise, conspiracy to commit conducting a criminal enterprise, keeping a house of prostitution, and a few more crimes, I think. Are there two other charges on him?
The conspiracy to commit, and then the keeping the house of prostitution.
Okay, thanks. Efforts remain underway to bring Lee into custody and will continue today. The charges against Jin, Villacerda, and Luge have been filed in the 40th District Court in the city of St. Clair Shores, and the charges against Lee and Powell have been filed in the 36th District Court in Detroit. The charges against Navoy have been filed in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office in the 28th District Court in Southgate. As some of these defendants are believed to be non-citizens of this country and pose certain flight risks, and while we have each in custody, we are requesting that the courts not offer any bond and secure their passports. Their arraignments are not yet scheduled. This investigation began as two separate cases. One started with the St. Clair Shores Police Department investigating a suspected illicit massage parlor in their city, alleged today to be a house of prostitution, and a criminal enterprise profiting from the forced commercial sex servitude of helpless victims trafficked across an ocean more than 6,000 miles from home. A second investigation began with Michigan State Police assisting the Maumee Police Department in Ohio, and that led to the discovery of numerous illicit massage parlors in southeast Michigan. One of the agencies learned of each other's work, and with the overlap of defendants, they began to coordinate their investigations, and that's what's led to the arrest today of these four individuals. Through physical surveillance efforts, our investigative team observed various members of this alleged criminal enterprise moving between parlors, airports, casinos, and residences, and we're able to piece together a clear picture of how this trafficking ring conducted its operations here in Michigan, and we look forward to detailing this investigation much more completely in the courts. In addition to the arrest warrants for each of the charged individuals, our operation today executed search warrants at 4 alleged illicit massage parlors in Wayne and Macomb counties. So search warrants were executed at 111 Healing Studios in St. Clair Shores, which is on Harper near 12 Mile Road, AM Healing Studio in Sterling Heights near the intersection of Metro Parkway and Mound, Magic Health Spa in Detroit and 8 Mile Road in Lasher, 8 Star Spa in Detroit on 8 Mile near I-75, and additionally 2 search warrants were executed at residences of several of these individuals that were charged in Detroit and in Clinton Township. And while evidence is still being processed and accounted for, preliminarily, I can say that our officers seized numerous cell phones, business documents, bank records, cash, computers, vehicle, and more evidence. And as we continue to process all of it and speak with the victims that were uncovered today, we sift through all that we'll collect and learn in the weeks ahead. The investigation remains very active and ongoing and a very expansive endeavor. And it's possible that this ring represents only a small portion of a much larger criminal conspiracy. Our efforts will continue to root out human trafficking wherever we find it across the state. And right here in Michigan and throughout the country, men, women, and children are forced into commercial sex work, domestic servitude, and other forced labor in what we can only call a form of modern-day slavery. Unfortunately, human trafficking is thriving and growing as a criminal industry worldwide. I have here in my office worked to lead the fight against these horrendous crimes by charging criminal cases under the state law banning human trafficking in Michigan, and we've continued prosecutions into both sex and labor trafficking. My commitment in prosecuting these cases, though sometimes poorly understood in courtrooms across the state, remains steadfast and unwavering. And I'm also hopeful that our human trafficking legislation, sponsored by Representative Kelly Breen, will be passed through the Michigan House next week. And this case truly highlights why our laws need to be changed to better protect victims of trafficking. And I anticipate strong bipartisan support following its unanimous passage through both the Senate and the House Judiciary Committee. And again, just on a status with that, we are awaiting a vote of the full House in the House of Representatives. I was told that this was going to be voted on the other day, and then suddenly it was pulled from the agenda. I can't think of a single reason why even one member of the House of Representatives would vote against this, and I urge them to get these bills passed as quickly as possible. We badly need them here in the state of Michigan. I'm so grateful and thankful to the many partners my office has had in this investigation. These arrests, the takedown of 4 illicit massage parlors, the liberation of various victims of human trafficking today in our communities, all the result of an incredible effort by several law enforcement agencies represented by the men and women standing up here with me now. If you are a victim of human trafficking or you've identified someone you think might need help, please contact the National Human Trafficking Resource Center at 888-373-3788, or you can text 233-733. This national toll-free hotline is available to answer calls and texts and chats from anywhere in the country, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, and all calls are confidential. Additionally, resources are available, including some red flags to help identify human trafficking on my department website at mi.gov/human trafficking, and I encourage each and every one of you, media, residents alike, to familiarize yourself with the signs of how to respond if you have identified what you believe to be a human trafficking victim. I want to offer my very sincere thanks to the St. Clair Shores Police Department, including Deputy Chief Paul Plaza, Detective Jesse Smith, and Sergeant Tim Pickens, to the Michigan State Police, including, of course, Colonel James Grady, Detective Lieutenant Ed Price, Detective Sergeant Les Rochford, and Detective Sergeant John Walden, and MSP Comet. Homeland Security investigations, including Special Agent in Charge Angie Salazar, Special Agent Emily Zabracki, Special Agent Kyle Galbraith, and Special Agent Argent Palumbo, right? And TSA investigations, and all the amazing community partners and victim advocates who are there to support victims of these very heinous crimes. And I also want to thank Kristen Cartwright from the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, who's handling the case in Wayne County. So thanks to everybody, and now we are going to have Colonel Grady address everyone.
Good afternoon. It's great to see everyone this afternoon. Thank you, Attorney General, for having me here today. Thank you for your partnership we have developed between our two agencies. The investigation moved a lot more quickly with the support of the Assistant Attorney Generals that have been assigned. Criminals do not recognize borders between city, county, and the state. I want to thank St. Clair Shores and Sterling Heights Police Departments this afternoon, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and the Homeland Security Investigations, the Detroit office, for all of the hard work that our detectives have been working together to save those who were impacted by human trafficking. It really does take a collaborative effort to have success in this. I am extremely proud of the work that the 2nd District Special Investigative Section, the Trafficking and Abduction Group, our MSP Victim Advocates, and our MSP Gaming Section have been doing excellent work. And while we remain committed to investigating human trafficking here in Michigan, we are also working to educate our communities on the signs of human trafficking through programs such as Truckers Against Trafficking. Our motor carrier officers have partnered with this organization since 2015. Again, the collaborations are extremely important for us to have success. To report suspected human trafficking, I'm going to provide a number to you. It's 1-888-373-7888. The Michigan State Police has other platforms in which you could call in through 1-800-MISH-TIP, OK to say. There are a number of ways to provide information so that we can follow up and properly investigate so that we can reduce human trafficking. It is, one person being trafficked is way too many. But it really does truly take not only us in the criminal justice community, but the residents across this state to assist us as well. So please utilize those platforms to make us aware of human trafficking that is ongoing in your area. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm Andrew Salazar. I am the Special Agent in Charge for Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, here in Detroit. And as you've already heard, in order to truly fight human trafficking, partnerships are key. And so I want to start by thanking and extending my gratitude to the Michigan Attorney General's Office, Michigan State Police, the St. Clair Shores and Sterling Heights Police Departments, TSA Investigations, and all of our law enforcement partners who assisted in today's operation. As you've heard, this morning we had a joint successful operation into a human trafficking investigation. Right now, our special agents, victim assistance specialists, forensic interviewers are working to gather more evidence and ensure these victims receive the care and services they need. HSI stands committed to combat human trafficking, not just here in Michigan, but across the nation and around the world. Our efforts rely on strong partnerships with local, state, federal law enforcement and our non-governmental organization partnerships. This way we can hold traffickers accountable and protect victims. At HSI, we follow a victim-centered approach, placing as much importance on supporting survivors as we do on prosecuting the criminals. This approach ensures victims have a voice and the resources they need to rebuild their lives. I'm immensely proud of the work our team does every day to dismantle trafficking networks and deliver justice for those who cannot speak for themselves. Together, we are sending a clear message. Human trafficking will not be tolerated in our communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Plaza, Deputy Chief, St. Clair Shores Police Department. Again, thank you to all the law enforcement partners we have. I think this is a great example of see something, say something. In our town, at least, it started off with residents or citizens seeing something suspicious, taking that step to report it. Our detectives investigated, found out that it was much larger than we suspected, And again, having the cooperation of all the law enforcement community, federal, state, county, all levels, our detectives did a fantastic job, along with all officers. So for the officers out there on the street, the ones conducting the search warrants, making the traffic stops, thank you for your hard work. This is a problem that probably goes on more than people realize. It is important, again, I'll reiterate, when you see something that looks suspicious, there's probably something to it, please report it. There's agencies that will, as we did, investigate it and use the resources available to conclude this and get victims to safety and arrest those who need to be arrested. So, again, thank you very much. That's all I have for you.
All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll take some questions.
Yeah, Ed, can you please talk about the victims? I think you say 7 to 9.
Right.
And where are they from?
They're from China and also from Korea. And we've not established yet whether it's North or South Korea or both.
And have they helped at all? I don't know if there's a language barrier, but have they been able to talk about how they ended up where they are?
Right. I mean, that's the hope, right? This just happened, and obviously we were prepared for there to be a language barrier, so we wanted to make sure that we had language access available so that those conversations could be had, and you know, they're being interviewed, but also, you know, being provided housing, and of course we want to make sure that in the event they need medical attention, that we're doing that and that they're taken care of. And I will say, you know, one of the big challenges to prosecuting human trafficking cases is that these folks are scared. You know, they're terrified, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that they feel as safe and secure as possible. But those interviews and those conversations are being had as we speak.
And I'm sorry, finally, do you believe that they were brought to the U.S. Illegally?
Yes. I mean, not illegally. They're here legally, correct?
They're here legally.
Right.
They're here legally.
Correct.
Yeah, Alyssa.
Is there any investigation of people who may have visited this massage parlors at all?
I think that part of the investigation obviously will be if there's any record keeping, and you know, any potential crimes will be investigated from there. I mean, I will say this: these illicit massage parlors, they're only profitable because they have customers, right? And I think it's an important message to people who frequent these types of massage parlors. And let me be very clear: if you're at an illegal massage parlor, you know it. It's not a surprise. In the case of some of these parlors that we're talking about, you know, when you have to get buzzed in, it's probably illegal. When the women who are performing the massage are wearing lingerie, it's probably illegal. When they offer you a menu of services that are sexual in nature, it is definitely illegal. So we want to make sure that people understand this is not a victimless crime. It's very much a crime that involves people who are victims of some of the most, you know, horrendous behavior you can imagine. I mean, these are folks that are kept in these buildings. They're not allowed to leave. They were even taken to gyms just for the purposes of showering and then brought back. You know, they don't have a life. This is their entire life. And it's a terrible way to live. So if you are frequenting an illicit massage parlor, you are creating more victims.
Yeah, Gino.
Yeah, thank you. That being said, can you talk about the effort to go after individuals who patronize these types of illegal establishments?
That's going to be part of the investigation.
So when people were calling about seeing things suspicious, what exactly were they saying? Like, what did they report exactly?
Sure. Well, without sometimes you got to be careful because of where the source of information may come from. But a lot of things are associated with people at these massage parlors. You don't see employees come and go like you normally would. So a lot of times they may stay at these places during odd hours. You don't see them coming and going to work like like you would normally see. The kind of clientele as well that you see going in. When you have weekly massages, perhaps, at the same people, that might be an indication. And then word gets out. It's hard to keep that quiet for too long. People speak, and some people who hear these things take a stand and report it. So that's what happened in our case. Someone saw something suspicious. They didn't see a business operating as it normally should. Hard to kind of put that together, but you know when something doesn't seem right. Surveillance is conducted, and we move forward from there.
Yeah, Hannah.
Do you think there are other operations within this ring still in Michigan or other states?
I think it's likely, yes.
All right, Will.
Can you describe just how sophisticated this network is to, stay out of sight from authorities?
Well, I don't know that they did stay out of sight from authorities, but
How long were they
Melissa,
operating before
do you want to
it was
answer that?
discovered?
Well, without giving too much detail, because most of the detail has to come out in court, I will just say that this is an operation that involved crossing state lines. So you have individuals who do not live in the state of Michigan, and they would be coming in to Michigan, making their rounds, going to the casino to launder their money, and then exiting the state of Michigan. So these are buildings that don't get a ton of the only people coming and going into these buildings are people who are asking for the illicit massages. So it's not something that is going to be in everybody's face. These are buildings that are not necessarily marked for the purpose that they are there for.
Yeah, Hillary.
Is there some way to characterize how ubiquitous this is? This is the first time we've heard about massage parlors, clearly, where there's illicit activity going on. Is there a way to characterize how ubiquitous you think this activity is?
Oh, I mean, we think it's widespread. It's just, again, these are difficult crimes to prosecute. And that's probably why you don't see, more investigations and prosecutions. And again, part of it has to do with the fact that you have victims that are, very reluctant to testify, and where it's difficult for them to do so, especially here where you have people who, they're not from the United States. They might not have anybody at all here, and may have been promised something in exchange for coming here, and that they might be able to work off a debt that they could never actually work off. So this, again, is one of the reasons why we're asking the legislature to please pass these laws that make it much easier for us to prosecute these cases. There are a lot of barriers right now, and the legislature could do something to make it easier and to make sure that we are targeting the right people. The last thing that we want to be doing is to be charging people who are victims of human trafficking with criminal offenses. But unfortunately, in the past, that's something that has happened all too frequently, because they are the most obvious person who has committed some sort of crime, but really, again, they're victims. They are being trafficked. They're not there voluntarily. They're not there because they want to be engaged or involved in this kind of conduct. So I think it's a significant problem, and hopefully, again, we'll have more tools available in order to be able to expose that and to be able to stop some of these parlors from continuing to engage in this trafficking activity. And I'm really grateful for all the partnerships that you see up here. And for the purposes of my office, I'm particularly thankful for the hard work of Melissa Palapoo, who's only been in this position for about a year now, and has done some tremendous work. And I'm hoping that people will hear this, see this, and know that if you are engaged in human trafficking through one of these illicit sex parlors, it's only a matter of time, hopefully, before we discover you.
And were there any additional raids that occurred prior to this morning as part of the investigation?
As part of this investigation? No. Well, okay, just a second. No.
Melissa?
Will there be any efforts to reunite victims with their family members or anything like that?
Well, they don't have family members here.
Okay. Yes.
They would have to go home for that, right? But there's a special visa, a T visa, it's called. And it's expressly for the purposes of making sure that people are not getting deported if they are human trafficking victims. So they will be provided with those. I don't want to speak for HSI, but...
Yeah.
they're entitled to certain, if they're here illegally now, so they'll be entitled. The federal law allows for a short-term permission to stay, and then a longer term, which is a T visa for victims who've been identified as victims of human trafficking held against their will.
I have another one from Gino, and we'll do a couple more if they're on.
Attorney General Nessel, you mentioned that new legislation will make it easier to charge these types of crimes. Can you just mention what legal mechanism you might be talking about that would make it easy, make your life easier?
Glad that you asked. I have the list here. So what these bills do is they give prosecutors additional tools to hold traffickers accountable, while also provided the much needed support and tools for survivors in Michigan to reclaim their lives and to move forward. And how do we do that? By allowing survivors of human trafficking to have criminal convictions set aside if those offenses were a direct result of their victimization. They provide an affirmative defense for survivors if a crime was committed as a consequence of being trafficked. And you heard me say earlier, we're not sure how many victims there are, right? Sometimes you have people who have been trafficked, but then they move to another station where they're actually now part of this criminal enterprise that is, holding people captive. So, that is an issue. Modifying safe harbor protection for minors who are victims of sex and labor trafficking. It sets criteria for expert testimony in human trafficking cases. It would add to the hearsay exception and allow for such statements to come in if they were made not only by a victim of domestic violence, but also a victim of human trafficking. It would expand the reach of the statute that allows for admission of other prior similar acts to include admission of other acts of commercial sexual activity, prostitution, and human trafficking instead of only domestic violence or sexual assault cases. And it would help hold perpetrators of these crimes accountable by allowing jurors to consider an abuser's or trafficker's true nature or the abusers and traffickers' plans regarding human trafficking offenses. Now, so I'm wrapping up my 6th year as Attorney General of this state. So that's 3 legislative terms that we've tried to get this legislation through. There is no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for these laws not being passed. Again, we have a little bit more time in lame duck. We've already made it through one chamber, and I'm asking the House of Representatives to do their job and to help us pursue these heinous crimes and to assist survivors of them.
Yeah, Melissa.
Were any of the victims minors involved in this or anything? Minors?
No, not that we discovered today.
Ed, you want to close us out?
You have people here from state and local agencies, someone from the federal government, and you've talked about people moving from state to state, overseas. Does the U.S. Attorney's Office have an interest in these types of cases? Does that matter? Would that help? These are very complicated efforts. I'm wondering why some of this isn't in federal court.
Well, we will probably be discussing this case with the U.S. Attorney's Office and seeing how we can work, further in collaborating in terms of federal crimes and state crimes. But at this point, we were the lead agency in terms of prosecuting agency. We obviously both have authority, right? We have state laws and we have some pretty significant laws when it comes to human trafficking. But we work with federal partnerships and we charge these particular cases. There may be other crimes that can be charged by the U.S. Attorney's Office. We'll see.